Hey, this is a special episode of Good Brews, Bad Views. It's James. I'm here flying solo today. I've got Steve Haumschild. Is that it?
Sure.
Is that all right?
Close enough.
You're head brewer.
I'm the founder. I'm the owner. I'm the brewer. I clean things. I fix things.
All right.
It's everything.
You're everything for Lanikai Brewery in Kailua, Oahu, and he's given us the opportunity to ask him a couple questions about the brewery and talk about what we're doing. So. One of the big reasons why I wanted to come back and talk to you guys is we were talking to your staff last time we were here about the really unique stuff you guys were doing for sourcing wild yeast.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I think we missed it I left the day before the UFO released, and we showed up today, so I missed it by like a day on either side. So that was the yeast that you guys sourced from 65,000 feet in the air, is that correct?
70,000.
70,000, okay.
Yeah, from the stratosphere,
yeah. So, and then you have another one that you're working on that they said that you sourced some yeast potentially from a shark, is that right?
Yeah. Yep, I've got sharks, we've got eels, we've got from space, and then, those are the ones that kind of, there's a lot of those, but, went to the volcano during active volcanic activity last year and captured from there. We've gone to different beaches and rainforests and just kind of everywhere. Hawaii's got something like 11 of the world's 13 ecosystems.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to capture terroir of Hawaii on every island and to just kind of brew with something to make it an authentic Hawaiian wild ale.
That's really cool.
Yeah, just a different approach to it.
Okay. So are you guys doing that yourself, or you work with like local farmers, or
for the yeast capturing?
For the yeast capturing, yeah.
It's me. I bioprospect for all of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So initially we had a pretty high failure rate because when you biocapture, you have to be able to not only capture something that will ferment alcohol, but also create flavor.
Right.
So that can be very difficult, especially when you have mixed populations and there could be mold or bacteria or other things that are in there that you don't want. So we do it all by sensory base, where we'll go and instead of designing a beer like to cool ship in the wild, we do that sometimes, but what we do is we go cool ship with kind of like a wort medium designed just to capture kind of what we are going for in that area.
Okay.
Whether we want it funk or sour or whatever, we design a wort medium around it. But that never becomes a beer we sell.
Okay.
So we'll go through, then after that, it goes through our testing process, and then about a month or two later, we'll taste it and decide what we like. Let's say it's too sour, so then we'll brew another wort batch that will kill off some of that sour. So we'll do that a handful of times and kind of coach the flavors out of the native yeast and bacteria from Hawaii, and then once we know what those flavors are, then we'll design a beer around that.
That's a really cool process.
So it's a really in-depth multi-step process, but we learn a lot more about the culture, and we're designing a beer around that particular yeast.
Okay.
Instead of kind of just, hey, this is what we caught and this is what it tastes like. We're trying to have a more targeted approach to it.
Okay. So when you're dealing with wild yeast like that, I know that you kind of have to be really careful with letting it get like free or whatever.
Yeah.
You have to do that. So are you guys when you're dealing with that? How are you isolating them in different sections or chambers or anything like that? Or are you handling it more from a very small batch perspective, so you don't have to worry about that so much?
Are you talking about cross-infection?
Cross-infection, yeah.
Well, I'm a former biology lab professor.
Oh, okay. Well, then you got it.
I either believe you are clean or you are not clean.
Okay.
It's binary.
Right.
So, I can understand why a lot of big breweries don't want to have wild cultures and their clean cultures in there.
Yeah.
But as a small brewery, we have a small staff and everybody's really highly trained and really great brewers.
Okay.
And ultimately, if a tank's dirty and it has something wild in there, then we just have a cleaning process that's rigid. I think in a lot of the times in larger breweries, they might have shift brewers or night brewers, and maybe somebody forgot to transfer a message or something like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I think smaller brewers have an advantage if they have high levels of cleaning standards.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So I asked that just because I live in Michigan right now, so we've got all sorts of breweries everywhere, and every once in a while we'll hear somebody that's like, "Oh, we had to get rid of a bunch of beer because we had a cross contamination issue." But
and that's easy to happen. Wild yeast and bacteria is like about 1/100th of the size of traditional brewer's yeast that you buy.
Okay.
So it's ultra competitive, and it's like a domestic dog versus a wild dog. A wild dog is going to eat whatever and survive. But a domestic dog, if it's not hungry, it's just going to go lay down. It doesn't have that survival.
Gotcha.
So there's a lot more places to hide, and cross-infection it's a real possibility.
Okay.
But again, if you have really rigid cleaning habits, you can reduce that down as far as you want to.
Okay, and you guys have a handle on that. You're great. So it sounds awesome.
We've done the best we can.
Yeah.
We haven't had it yet. It's possible we'll get it in the future, but we have separate gaskets and hoses and a few other tricks that we use.
That's really cool.
So most of the soft goods are independent.
Nice,
yeah.
Nice. So when you talk about sourcing your yeast, it's got to be just living on the island. Are you sourcing your grain and everything from the island too, or are you doing that kind of?
No, I mean we get everything that we can from Hawaii.
That's awesome.
Everything we can.
Yeah.
But you can't get everything.
Right.
So there isn't grain growers and maltsters in Hawaii. We have to bring that in. But every one of our beers, initially just started using a local ingredient.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the initial thread of Lanikai is that, and then when we ran out of whatever mango season, then we stopped making mango beer. It's just we're very tied to the seasonality of it.
That's awesome.
Then a couple years into that, we started noticing a lot more terroir. Obviously, a mango in the winter is not going to be as sweet as the summer.
Right.
Even if we make those beers identically.
Yeah.
Or your 2016 passion fruit might be different than your 2017 based on Hawaii's growing season.
Right.
So then the 2016, 2017 beers are going to have a different variation in a way.
Yeah.
So we just embrace that in a terroir way.
Yeah.
And like I said, when we run out of that ingredient, it doesn't matter if it's in demand, we don't source from other places.
Okay.
So we don't go get purees from Central America. We stay true to Hawaii, and it's important for us to be authentic.
That's it's so cool that you're just not only are you looking at it from a Hawaii perspective, it's a local perspective, right? That you want to keep and love. And I think that speaks a lot to what true aloha and true Hawaii is, right? Like
sure.
it's loving your land and the people and everything that comes from it, and wanting to express that in the things you do.
Yeah, and for us when we started brewing, I love food and I love beer. When I travel, I want the local food and the local beer.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
They're designed to go together for a reason. And when we were making beer in Hawaii, there's great brewers in Hawaii, but I was looking for something that had a deeper connection, more an authentic base. So to me, just because you make a IPA in Hawaii doesn't make it a Hawaiian IPA.
Okay, yeah, I get what you mean by that.
And again,
right?
no disrespect, fantastic brewers in the state.
Yeah.
I wanted to have a deeper connection to that, and then that's had its pros of being us to be individual within our style, and the cons that it's really difficult to do. And, we forage for like 30 to 40% of our ingredients.
Wow.
So we're out like picking trees and hiking and connecting with farmers, and like so our sourcing of our raw goods out here has another dimension that makes it more difficult. Yeah.
When you're done with that though, and you make that beer, there's that so much more. You kind of feel a deeper connection to your beer at that point then too.
Yeah, I mean, I feel deeply connected to all the beers because, I went and picked it, we cleaned the fruit, we processed it in-house. Yeah. We got it fresh, and then we designed a beer around it and, tasted it. So it's, we want to be as true to Hawaii as we possibly can. Right. And then that's kind of how I feel we stick out differently. Okay. And again, not better or worse, that's the public opinion, but, we stay authentic to Hawaii.
Well, that was one of the things that my friend and I noticed. Coming from Michigan, we're a little spoiled for the amount of breweries that we have.
Totally.
But coming to Lanikai, immediately the first thing that we noticed were the different styles that you guys had from what, like you said, Hawaii has great brewers out there.
Breweries, yeah.
But there's I think there's still a little bit more of kind of a hold to traditional styles at some of the bigger Hawaiian breweries that are out there. And coming to Lanikai was wild ales and sours, and I mean, I had your sour New England IPA, and it's like I've never seen that before anywhere, and that was wonderful, and it has this unique taste, and what we were having the one that I really liked was last time I was here was your swipe ale.
Oh yeah, cool.
Which was really cool to see that you guys are not only experimenting with styles, but you're taking, like you've said, you're taking the traditions of Hawaii and applying them to these unique takes on them. You know, there's, as someone who's from Hawaii on the mainland, you go somewhere and you're like, oh, Hawaiian place, and they're like, oh yeah, it's Hawaiian because we put pineapple on it. You're like, no, man, there's such a deeper love for Hawaii and connection, and seeing you guys do that and connecting the modern Hawaii land with traditions that Hawaii is doing is really cool.
Thank you.
And you're taking them and putting them into these, I would say, unique styles on the island.
Yeah.
You're doing a lot. You're pushing that boundary of beer just in general, but particularly on the island.
Yeah.
So, do you guys have? I know you're collecting a lot of wild ales. Is that going to be your main focus for the brewery going forward? Is to push wild ales further?
We're still going to continue to push everything. Hawaii as a beer culture is still younger than a lot of places.
Yeah.
And we're very lucky that a lot of people that come and visit us or locals that drink here are prepared for our experimental style.
Okay.
So when we throw out something they've never heard or beer, everybody's here to taste it and try to learn and try to achieve. So we're very fortunate on our consumer base, which is a lot of local based people, so they get a lot of these flavors. And the wild ales for me is just a passion project.
Yeah.
I didn't get into brewing to be a billionaire. So if I'm gonna make stuff, I want to do it in certain ways, right? And I want to be able to explore. And when we started working with the Wild Ales program, this was about 3 years ago when I started it.
Okay.
I went to some of the best wild brewers that I know of, including the ones in Michigan and Denver and Pacific Northwest, and just asked them what they do with their cool ship and how they gather on a mobile basis. Like, how do you go out and do it? And ultimately, most people were like, mobile is just a crapshoot, and in your hot weather, I don't know if you're going to be able to really, have a lot of luck out there doing it.
Okay.
And I guess just being stubborn, and having the desire.
And that biology background,
right? And just using science to drive the process. And just said, well, there's things that you can do. So it took me probably a year and a half to develop how we're going to go about doing that.
Okay.
And in that initial year and a half, we had like a 90% failure rate. So we were just constantly failing, but given just enough hope that, hey, this one could work. So now what do we do with it? And
okay.
So now our failure rate is significantly lower because and a lot of times from Hawaii, as you can't apply a mainland solution to a Hawaii problem.
Right, yeah.
You have to apply a Hawaii solution to a Hawaii problem.
Yep.
So we kind of just took that mentality and just, we just, like I said, science plus brew techniques and just stubbornness, and then did it and figured it out. And we're managing maybe we have 40 or 50 strains in process right now, if not more.
Okay, wow.
So we're constantly collecting because these things can take years before, and they can even be commercially released. We're easily a year and a half out for each one, if not more.
Okay.
So it's a really slow, laborious process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Given that, I think that kind of covers what you guys are doing here. You're doing so much with wild ales and with the traditional styles.
Yeah.
What is it that you can see? Like, how do you, when you're talking about connecting those traditional styles to Hawaii? Are you doing that? You're doing that through the ingredients like the fruits and everything. Fruits and
sure, yeah. I mean, we brew with a lot of plants.
Okay.
Roots. Trees, obviously fruits, tons of flowers. Local salts, turmerics, ginger. Guy, kind of anything that grows around here.
Okay.
We kind of give it a go and figure out how we can pull flavor from it. So when people taste that beer, hopefully they believe that they got a well-crafted beer, but they also get the influence of that ingredient. We're not just trying to throw a couple sprigs of something in there.
Right.
We want it to have a purpose and intent within those beers.
You want them to taste it and say, "Oh, this tastes like this,"
right.
And I know that. So, for me, one of the things that when my wife came, she had forever she didn't like papaya or mango.
Yeah.
And so, when you're in Hawaii, you got to taste it while you're here, because particularly papaya is unique. It's the Hawaiian papaya. So that flavor is different, and I think you can express that through using those ingredients very thoughtfully, like you guys are in beers, right?
Totally.
Which is really cool. So is there anything you want to push about the brewery or anything before I change subjects on you and talk about movies for a couple minutes?
No, I mean the last thing that we're doing is we're working on building a distillery.
Okay.
So we're gonna kind of take, we brand all this as island inspired. The vein that we say that our compass. So we're gonna take the same process and start applying it to different spirits and stuff that we're gonna start making in not too long.
That's really exciting. That's really cool.
Yeah, so just kind of diversify the beverage portfolio. And then we start making non-alcoholic drink options. Just over the last couple months, we've been developing those. So we're looking to have, things for people. Not everybody drinks, and that's okay too.
Right. Yeah.
I just want to hang out with everybody, whether they consume alcohol or don't.
Right. You want them to still experience the philosophy that you guys have for your love and for Hawaii and the products you make. Right.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so these are usually the things we ask people when they come on the podcast, which you're coming on, but they're easy questions. So I'll ask you the first one, which is what's the first movie you remember seeing in theaters?
The first movie I saw in the theaters?
Yeah.
I think it was E.T.
E.T.? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right, and then the second question is, what's the first movie you saw that you remember being like, I don't think this is a very good movie? Like, what's the first, because, as a kid, you go to the movie theater, right? And you're like, it's like to go into the theater, it's exciting and it's that experience. And then there's some time when you're probably in your teenage years that you see a movie and you start, like, kind of laughing at a line or an effect or something like that. Yeah.
So I would say either, what was it? It's like Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yeah.
Either that or like Ernest Goes to Camp.
Okay. Those are fair movies, yeah. And then the last one's a little, we're going to circle back to beer, which is, what is the beer that you had that made you realize there was more to beer than like the American adjunct lager?
So my first craft beer was Arrogant Bastard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was in college in the in college in like the late '90s, basically. A friend invited me to what we always thought was a hipster bar.
Okay.
And we were getting drinks. I'm like, "What are you drinking?" And he's like, "I drink this Arrogant Bastard." And he's like, "That's a fantastic name.
Yeah.
I'm down for the name."
All right.
I had it. And, obviously that was an extraordinarily creative and aggressive beer back in like the late '90s.
Right. Yeah.
And it just it was the kind of my aha beer is what we kind of
Gotcha.
call it.
Yeah. Yep. That's the. It's cool talking to you about that because you're not from Michigan. So we usually get the answer we usually get is Oberon.
Yeah,
because
sure.
we're all up there. But cool. Well, I really appreciate your time. So thank you for coming out for this.
Awesome. Yeah, you bet.
We do this. We watch bad movies and drink good beer. So we actually took back. We took back Pillbox Porter and the Swipe, and we featured those on an episode too.
Oh, sweet. Awesome.
Yeah, so those were really cool. And both those, the Swipe was so unique and so really interesting. And then both my friend and I, we had the Porter, and Ryan and I consider that a top 3 porter we've ever had.
Wow, thank you.
It's
awesome.
so good. If anybody who listens makes their way out to Oahu, we are on. What is it, Hekili Street? Is that right? Or is my...
we're on Hamakua.
Hamakua,
Yeah,
okay.
that's wrong. So Hamakua Drive.
Hamakua out in Kailua. I recommend you guys come out to Lanikai. They're doing some really unique stuff with beer in general, some really, really unique stuff with the rest of the islands. Their flavors are wonderful, and they're trying to make that connection to Hawaii that you... really brings you back to kind of old Hawaii.
Yeah.
The Hawaii, not before it is now, but Oahu's a big, bustling place. And sometimes you can find these places where you can kind of come and slow down a little bit and experience what Hawaii is.
Yeah.
And Lanikai is one of those places. So, again, thank you for your time, Steve.
You bet, man. Thanks.
All right, thanks.